If your heart feels just a little lighter right now, if your breath flows a little softer, then maybe this story has done its quiet work. And if you'd like more gentle moments like this, more whispers of wisdom, more stillness in the noise, you're welcome to stay. Part 1, The Fire Inside, Understanding Anger. Have you ever felt it? That slow, creeping heat in your chest, the tightening jaw, the racing thoughts that loop and spin like fire caught in the wind. Anger. It's one of the most powerful emotions we carry. Sometimes it's a flash. Sometimes it lingers like smoke, long after the fire has passed. But what is it, really? And why does it hurt us so deeply, even when we feel so right? Take a breath with me. Yes, right now. Just breathe. Inhale, hold, and exhale slowly. This is not a lecture. This is not a sermon. This is a story about a man who was swallowed by anger and a teacher who didn't fight back, but showed him something far more powerful. But before we arrive there, let us begin with you and me and the very real fire we all know. There was once a woman, maybe not so different from you, who carried her anger like armor. She had been wronged, betrayed, lied to so many times that now she trusted no one. She wore silence like a shield. She spoke in short sentences, smiled only when necessary, and her eyes, if you ever caught them, always seemed to be watching, waiting. One day, a friend asked her, "Why are you always so guarded?" She replied, "Because people always hurt you if you let them in." That friend, wise in his own quiet way, said, "But what if the one doing the hurting now is you?" She didn't respond, but the words stayed, and like a seed dropped into frozen soil, they waited. And that's what anger often is, isn't it? A reaction that feels like strength, but deep down it's a wound, untouched, unhealed, unnamed. You see, in the teachings of the Buddha, anger is called a fire that burns the bearer. Not the one we're angry at, but us. It scorches our mind, it dries up compassion, and it blinds us to what could have been softness, forgiveness, or peace. But here's something you might not have been told. Anger is also a messenger. It says, "I've been hurt. I don't feel safe. I need something to change." And like any messenger, it deserves to be heard, but not obeyed blindly. That's where the story begins. Far from our modern world, in a time when the forests were thick and the roads between villages were made of dirt and dust, there lived a man with a temper as fierce as a lion. He had been respected once, but over time, bitterness had carved deep lines into his face. He grew suspicious of everyone, especially those who claimed to bring peace, because in his eyes, peace was a lie, and those who spoke of it were often the ones hiding something. And so, when news spread through the nearby lands that a man called the Awakened One was visiting, a teacher named Gautama, the man felt something churn deep within his chest. Not curiosity, not interest, but fire. He clenched his fists, his teeth locked, and he made a vow: if he comes to my village, I will confront him, not to learn, not to listen, but to break him, to expose the so-called peace he offered as weakness, and to show everyone what real strength looked like. And so the stage was set, a fire was ready, and a teacher was walking calmly toward it. But what happens when a flame meets still water? You'll find out soon. Part 2. A village in fear, the man who hated the Buddha. The sun had just begun its slow descent when word reached the village: he is coming. They spoke in hushed voices, as if even the trees were listening. "The Buddha," said one man, "the one they say speaks of peace, but challenges the ways of old." "He teaches that suffering ends when attachment ends," whispered another. "But who would we be if we let go of everything we cling to?" Some were curious, some were hopeful, but many were afraid. Because peace, real peace, can be terrifying. It asks us to look inward, and not everyone is ready for that. But one man, Dharma they called him, wasn't afraid. He was angry, angry in a way that had grown inside him for years, like a vine climbing up the walls of his chest. It had wrapped around his heart long ago, squeezing tighter every time someone lied to him, every time someone left, every time life didn't go the way he had hoped. To the outside world, Dharma was a man of strength. His voice was sharp, his walk firm. He spoke with certainty, and others listened, because certainty is magnetic, even when it hides pain. But underneath, he was brittle. And when he heard that the Buddha was coming, with his silent eyes and inconvenient truths, Dharma felt something dangerous awaken. He speaks of emptiness, Dharma scoffed. Let him try to empty me. The night before the Buddha's arrival, the village gathered around fires. Some talked of miracles. Others spoke of renouncing wealth, of finding peace. But Dharma sat alone, sharpening his words like blades. He didn't plan to listen. He planned to confront. Not with fists. No, he was too clever for that. But with questions designed to humiliate, accusations meant to discredit, anger masked as righteousness. He believed himself a guardian. I protect this village from sweet-sounding poison, he told himself. But the truth, he was protecting his own pain from being seen. The morning came. Birds stirred in the trees, light spilled over the thatched rooftops, and a hush fell as the Buddha approached. He walked barefoot, robe flowing gently with each step, accompanied by a small group of disciples, none of whom spoke, yet all of whom radiated a kind of quiet awareness. They walked not as if they owned the path, but as if they were grateful for every inch of it. Children peeked from behind corners. Old men stood silently, hands pressed together, and then, from the crowd, Dharma stepped forward. Eyes narrow, jaw locked, shoulders tense like a bow pulled taut. The Buddha paused. Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything stilled. Even the birds grew silent. Dharma's voice was sharp, cutting through the silence like thunder through mist. You speak of truth, but you reject tradition. You claim to bring peace, but you've stirred doubt among the faithful. Who gave you the right? No response. The Buddha remained still, hands gently folded, face neither smiling nor frowning. His silence was not weakness, it was space. And in that space, Dharma filled the void with more anger. You think you're above the rest of us? You wear simple robes and walk barefoot like a beggar, but your pride is enormous. His voice grew louder. Say something, he demanded. Defend yourself. But the Buddha stood in stillness, as if every insult was like wind passing through an open field. No resistance, no reaction, just presence. The villagers watched, tension thick in the air. Would the teacher finally speak? Would he rebuke this man? Would he return anger with wisdom? Would he silence him with a holy curse? No. The Buddha simply looked at Dharma with eyes that did not judge, with compassion, not pity, with clarity, not superiority. And then he spoke, but not yet. That moment of speech is one of the most profound in the story. And it comes next. In part 3, The Silent Master, Meeting Compassion with Stillness, we will witness what the Buddha finally says and how it transforms not only the man before him, but everyone who watches, including us. Us. Part 3, The Silent Master, Meeting Compassion with Stillness. The wind shifted just slightly, enough to lift a corner of the Buddha's robe, enough to stir the tension in the air. Dharma stood, fists clenched, the fire in his eyes burning brightly. All around them the village was still. Even the children had stopped fidgeting. Even the birds had quieted. The Buddha raised his eyes slowly and met Dharma's gaze. But in that gaze there was no resistance, no defensiveness, no fear, only clarity, and the kind of peace that makes you question your own storm. Then, in a voice that was neither loud nor soft, neither cold nor warm, but simply present, the Buddha spoke. May I ask you a question? Dharma was caught off guard. He expected debate, rebuke, counterattack, but a question? He blinked. Ask, he said, cautiously. The Buddha gestured gently with his hand, his fingers forming a small circle, like a cup. If someone offers you a gift, he asked, and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong? Dharma froze. He had not expected a riddle. His mind scrambled to catch up. A gift not accepted. He repeated the words under his breath. Then it stays with the giver, he finally said slowly. The Buddha nodded. Exactly. And then he looked into Dharma's eyes, not to challenge him, but to invite him in. In the same way, he continued, you have offered me your anger, your insults, your pain, but I do not accept them. They remain with you. The words did not strike like arrows. They did not tear or wound. They landed softly, like rain on parched earth. Dharma felt it, a loosening in his chest, a weight shifting as if a great sack of stones he didn't know he was carrying had just begun to slide off his shoulders. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came. Because something else was happening, something subtle, something sacred. In the presence of complete calm, his fury had nowhere to go. In the presence of someone who did not resist him, his need to fight began to dissolve. And in the presence of such deep stillness, his chaos could no longer pretend to be power. It was just pain. A long silence followed, but this silence was different, not tense, not heavy. This was the silence of realization, the space between an old self ending and a new self being born. Dharma looked around. The villagers' eyes were on him. But for the first time, he didn't care what they saw. He looked again at the Buddha, not as an enemy, not even as a holy man, but as a mirror. And in that mirror, he saw not judgment, not shame, but possibility. Finally, with a voice that barely carried, Dharma whispered, I have nothing more to give you. And the Buddha smiled, not a wide grin, not a triumphant smirk, just a gentle softening of the lips like sunlight breaking through morning mist. Then leave your gift behind, the Buddha said, and walk in peace. And so Dharma stepped back, not in defeat, but in release. And the Buddha turned, walking once more through the village, not as a hero, not as a god, but as a man who had mastered the art of meeting fire with water. But that's not where the story ends, because what happens after the anger is gone? What remains when the fire burns out? In part 4, The Gift Left Unclaimed, The Turning Point, we explore how this moment changed Dharma's life forever, and how it might just change ours too. Part 4, The Gift Left Unclaimed, The Turning Point. The crowd slowly dispersed. Some returned to their homes in silence. Others stayed behind, still trying to understand what had just happened. But Dharma, he did not move. He stood in the same spot, feet planted on the dusty path where he had faced the Buddha. His shoulders, once tense like drawn bows, had fallen. His hands hung open as if still unsure whether they were supposed to be holding something. But they weren't, because the gift, his anger, had been returned to him. And now he didn't want it anymore. He walked, not quickly, not as a man with purpose, but slowly, like someone carrying a fragile truth he wasn't ready to put into words. He left the village. He walked past the fields where he once shouted commands, past the house where he once argued with his brother, past the tree under which he once vowed never to forgive his father. And when he reached the edge of the forest, he sat. The wind played in the branches above him. Leaves whispered, birdsong resumed its soft rhythm, and inside Dharma there was no noise. For the first time in years, his mind was not filled with rehearsed arguments, grudges replayed like broken records, or imagined battles where he always came out victorious. There was just space. He remembered what the Buddha had said. You have offered me your anger, but I do not accept it. And now he felt the weight of that truth. His anger had always felt like something powerful, like armor, like control. But it wasn't. It had been a burden, a torch he kept carrying long after the night had passed. He had mistaken it for strength because he was afraid to feel weak. But now that he'd laid it down, he didn't feel weak. He felt human. Dharma thought of the people he had hurt, the apprentice he'd once humiliated in front of others, the old man whose advice he mocked years ago, the friend who tried to help but whom he accused of betrayal. He thought of his mother, how she had begged him to forgive his brother after a childish argument that had turned into a decade-long silence. He had refused because he wanted to be right, because he thought to yield was to lose. But now, sitting beneath that tree, he realized the cost of being right. It had cost him connection, compassion, and peace. Tears came, not loud, dramatic sobs, but slow, quiet tears, the kind that cleanse not from grief but from letting go. He did not wipe them away. He let them fall like the anger that had finally been released. And there, in the stillness of the forest, Dharma whispered to no one in particular, "I'm tired of holding this." The next morning, he returned to the village. People were already awake, children laughing, merchants calling out their goods. But when they saw Dharma, they grew quiet. He walked with eyes soft, posture relaxed. He didn't carry the same sharpness in his step. He looked around at the faces he had once judged, the neighbours he had once criticised, and he simply bowed, not to them, but to the moment, to humility, to a peace that was no longer an idea but a lived reality. That night, he visited his brother. The door creaked open. Surprise filled the air. But Dharma didn't explain. He just said, "I've been carrying something that wasn't mine, and I don't want it anymore." Then he placed a small clay cup empty on the table, a gesture, a symbol, an apology. His brother stared, then smiled. No words were needed. The days passed, and though Dharma still felt anger at times, in small moments, in sudden flashes, he no longer fought it. He no longer fed it. He saw it as a visitor, a teacher, and most days when it came knocking, he simply chose not to open the door. So what does this mean for us? What can we learn from a man who laid down his anger and a teacher who never picked it up? In part 5, Letting Go, Reflection, Meditation and Healing, we'll return to your story with a quiet space to reflect, a gentle guided meditation, and a whisper that says, you don't have to carry it anymore. Part 5 of Letting Go, Reflection, Meditation and Healing. So here we are. The fire has faded, the story has been told, but perhaps something deeper remains. Not just the memory of a man who yelled or a master who stayed silent, but the feeling, quiet, subtle, like the moment after rain, when the earth breathes again. Take a breath right now. Inhale slowly and exhale gently. Let your shoulders soften, unclench your jaw. Let your thoughts float like clouds, distant, passing, harmless. There is no need to do anything. No need to fix, to fight, or to figure it all out. Right now, you are safe. And in this space, we return to the heart of the story. The Buddha taught, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. When Dharma laid down his anger, he didn't become weak. He became free. Because letting go is not about surrendering to others. It's about releasing ourselves from what never truly belonged. And maybe there's something in your hands too, something you've been holding so tightly for so long. Maybe it was a betrayal, a cruel word you can't forget, a moment when someone hurt you and never said sorry. Or maybe the anger isn't towards someone else. Maybe it's toward yourself. For not being enough, for failing, for trusting, for staying too long, or leaving too soon. Whatever it is, it's heavy, isn't it? But here's the truth. You don't have to carry it anymore. A guided meditation 3 minutes of soft release. Let's sit together just for a moment. Find a position that feels comfortable. You can close your eyes or keep them soft and low. Take a deep breath in and slowly release. Again. Inhale calm, exhale tension. Now bring to mind someone or something that has made you angry. Let the image come gently. Don't resist it. Don't judge it. Just see it. Now imagine the anger between you as a physical object, a stone, a flame, a rope, whatever comes naturally, and notice how long you've been carrying it, how tightly you've held on, how much effort it's taken to keep it close. And now with your next breath out, let it go. Don't force, just release. See it fall, see it burn away, see it dissolve in the river of your breath, and feel your hands empty. Feel your chest open. Feel your mind still. You didn't erase the past. You didn't make it right, but you gave yourself peace. Final reflection. A whisper from within. You may carry many things in this life, responsibilities, memories, dreams, but anger need not be one of them. Not every battle must be fought. Not every insult must be answered. Not every fire must be fed. There is power in walking away, in choosing silence, in choosing peace. Like the Buddha, you too can return the gift of anger unopened. You too can bow to the storm without letting it inside. And so we end not with a lesson, but with an invitation to pause, to soften, to ask yourself, what am I still carrying that I no longer need? And then, with a quiet heart and open hands, let it go. If this story brought you even a moment of stillness, a breath of ease, a seed of peace, you're welcome to stay. Here in this little corner of quiet, we share stories not just to listen, but to heal. Subscribe to Zen Whisper Tales for more whispered wisdom, soothing reflections, and soft reminders that you are never alone on the path. Until next time, breathe easy, be kind, let go.